the basic math that we have involved. So the top round cost 1. This bottom round is only a function of regular vehicles. Smart vehicles don't contribute to the cost, say, but regular vehicles do, and they contribute to it with this cost gamma times x, right? So this is just an example of a particular instantiation of this cost functions. And now let's suppose that we wanted to route, we have a 1/2 units of smart vehicles we're trying to route through the network, and we have 1/2 gamma units of regular vehicles we're trying to route through the network, okay? Again, these are strange parameters, it may seem, but the point of this example demonstrates or illustrates a particular fact. So they seem strange, but let's just go with it and see what happens, right? So if you think in gamma, we're going to assume is greater than 2, I think, in this particular example we have to assume. So there's sort of more smart vehicles than there are regular vehicles, but they can choose top or bottom, right? And the bottom round, the cost of the bottom round is just a function of the number of regular vehicles that are taking that round. However, the cost is experienced by everybody, right? So even though the smart vehicle flow or the autonomous vehicle flow doesn't contribute to the cost on that bottom round, if they take that bottom round, they will experience the cost gamma times x, right? So if you think through this a little bit and you can play with the numbers a little bit, you can convince yourself that at warp drop equilibrium, everybody's going to take the bottom round. All vehicles are going to go on this lower route. And if you compute this, you have the cost is gamma times 1/2 gamma. That's the cost on the bottom link. This is the total flow on the bottom link, right? And you'll get a total cost that looks something like this. Okay? But then if you think about it a little bit more and you set up the optimization problem, you can convince yourself that if you were the social planer, you would actually put, you would split the flow. You would put all the regular vehicles on the top. They would experience this cost of 1. And then you would put all the smart vehicles on the bottom road, because they can travel the bottom road now for free, because there's no regular vehicles on the bottom road. The cost of the bottom road becomes 0, and you've got a cost of 1/2 gamma. All right? Okay, so now we're going to compute the price of anarchy in this network. Price of anarchy is the ratio of this cost, the warp drop equilibrium cost, to the cost of regular vehicles, to the socially optimal cost. And you're going to get a price of anarchy that looks like this. You're going to get gamma plus 1 divided by 2, right? What's interesting about this price of anarchy is this price of anarchy can be arbitrarily large when you have autonomous vehicles, right? So depending on gamma, if gamma was very, very large, you would have a very, very large price of anarchy, right? Now, you should ask yourself, does it make sense to have roads where the cost is, say, a very large number times the regular vehicles? Maybe, maybe not. But the point is that all of this fits in within this affine cost function framework, and we're now getting a result that looks different than we had when we had just regular vehicles. When we had just regular vehicles, no matter how you play with these costs, you had a price of anarchy of 4/3, but now we see that sort of our price of anarchy actually does depend quite a bit on how autonomous vehicles are going to affect the delay we have in our network. And so we can experience, it's plausible, depending on exactly how your delay functions are set up, that when you introduce autonomous vehicles, now the gap between what you could have achieved by telling everybody where to go and what you're going to get when people decide where to go on their own could be quite big, right? So that's sort of the message of this slide. In some sense, it's a negative result. This negative result says that it could be arbitrarily bad. I apparently had animations to kind of walk us through this. Okay? Okay. But what we are able to prove in this paper is actually we can come up with a new price of anarchy bound that now does depend on sort of this relationship between the delay for regular vehicles and the delay for autonomous vehicles. We call this the asymmetry of delay. We call this parameter Ki the asymmetry of delay. Remember, Ki was this sort of penalty function for being a regular vehicle instead of an autonomous vehicle, right? And so let's say you have an arbitrary network with many, many links in them, many, many links with this type of cost function, okay? And just call capital K to be the maximum value that you see for this asymmetry of delay on all the links, okay? So for example, as we sort of already described, for adaptive cruise control type technologies, maybe K is somewhere like 2 or 3. You can expect a penalty of a factor of 2 or 3 for being a regular vehicle versus being an autonomous vehicle. What we've proven is we have this theorem that says for any network, not just these simple 2-link networks, but any network you draw with affine cost functions, the price of anarchy is bounded by 4/4 minus 3, right? So kind of the fun part about this equation is we recover the classical results when we set K equal to 1. When K is 1, that means that the regular and the smart vehicles are behaving the same. So they're basically now just one class of vehicles. And fortunately, we're recovering sort of these known results that you have a price of anarchy bound at 4/3. And we know some other things about it. We have a specific example that shows that this price of anarchy bound is tight when k is equal to 2, but we actually don't know much more about the bound. We don't know if it's tight in other regimes. You'll notice that this price of anarchy goes off to infinity when k approaches 4. We don't believe that that's the case. We believe that networks have finite price of anarchy as k goes beyond 4, but this bound breaks down. So that's an open question. Is there a bound out there for k greater than 4? Things like this. Not presented in this talk. We have similar bounds for something called the bicriteria, which is this problem of, okay, you have a social delay that you can achieve in the network, and you have this ward-drop equilibrium, which is higher than the social delay. How many additional vehicles could you put on the social optimal version of this network before the two delays become equal? That's called bicriteria. And we have, it's known to be bounded in certain cases when you just have regular vehicles. And we have similar bounds that depend on this factor k when you have smart and regular vehicles. Okay, so that's actually the end of my talk. Let me just kind of finish with a few concluding remarks. I think the high-level message here is that autonomous vehicles are going to have complex effects on traffic networks, beyond sort of the things that people write about in the news, about possible collisions, possible difficulties handling four-way stops. Like, those are all important problems. And beyond that, I think there are some fundamental problems that one could consider solved in the regular vehicle case that are now going to have interesting questions when you introduce autonomous vehicles. And some of these effects are going to be counterintuitive. For example, work by some friends of ours that are, we're not on this work, but they've proven that you can actually sort of reproduce a Brace paradox-like effect by just introducing autonomous vehicles in the network. And so one solution to this problem that's starting to be explored also is perhaps you should toll vehicles as they use this network. Perhaps you should charge autonomous vehicles or regular vehicles, depending on how you set up the problem, to use certain roads versus others. And maybe by tolling these vehicles, you can actually improve the system performance from this game theoretic perspective. There are some answered questions here, particularly in the case when every link in the network has this sort of the same asymmetry of delay, but there's lots of open questions in this world as well. So if you're looking for some fun problems to think about, thank you for listening to my talk. I'll take any questions at this point.
Question? So why do we want to reduce POA?
Right, so that's a good question. So the reason is because we sort of, what does the price of anarchy tell us? The price of anarchy tells us, okay, here's the delay that we're going to see when we set people free in the wild. They just do their own thing, right? But then we have this other delay that we know is achievable. We know it's like this possibility that we could see in the network if only we were able to kind of, with a magic wand, tell people that you should go here and you should go there and do this, right? So and that difference is for free, right? We're still routing the same number of vehicles, we're using the same roads, we're using the same infrastructure. So somehow this gap is it's a free gap that if we could close it, it would improve the system for free, basically. And so finding ways to do that, that's basically the short answer.
The literature so far, observation says that these relationships are highly nonlinear, not atonal.
Yeah. So that's a great question. So we do have some results for higher order polynomials. If we restrict the classes of polynomials, we can get similar looking bounds or more complex, but the bounds do have this flavor that they depend on the pricing. They depend on this asymmetry of delay. The pricing anarchy depends on this asymmetry of delay. And there are classical results also that allow for kind of higher order cost functions. But we do kind of focus on polynomial bounds and things like this. Yeah.
So if you want to move towards the system optimal away from the user optimal, and is the implication that providing autonomous vehicles can be used to essentially push you down the system optimum? Is that, I mean, that's really a big issue.
Yeah, I mean, one message of this is that you can actually make this gap wider by putting autonomous vehicles in it, and so now you have a bigger problem on your hands. Whereas before the problem was at worst 4/3, now you could have a problem that's worse than 4/3, and now you may even be more motivated to close using other techniques like tolling or something like this.
Sure. Can you go to slide 24? So on the top there, you said there are two types of vehicles.
Yeah.
What happens if gamma is more than one? So what are the other types of vehicles you have there?
Let's see. So gamma. So gamma is just a parameter. Gamma sort of ties the costs together. We still have two types of vehicles. We have regular vehicles and smart vehicles. And this is just happens to be. I'm just setting up a system where we happen to have this number of regular vehicles and this number of smart vehicles.
So there are some other vehicles and gamma is different.
No, sorry. So there's just less than. Sorry, I now understand the question. No. So in that case, you just have less than 1 unit of flow that you're trying to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the reason we set it up this way is we wanted to get a price of anarchy that looked as clean as possible with the gamma. So we filled with the routing parameters until we got there. Yeah, in this network, we might be routing strictly less than 1 unit of flow. Yeah.
So now I have a more broad question. I know that this may not, of course, relate to what you're doing, because when you talk about user equilibrium, there's an underlying assumption, of course, that the focus is on minimizing, when you go selfish, the travel time, and in reality, that need not be the case, right? I mean, so how would you bring that in to, when you bring in autonomous vehicles, it gets even worse potentially because people are not necessarily even worried about travel time as much as they would if they were driving.
That's definitely true.
Right.
Right. So then we might have to build different cost functions now that are not a function of time. Maybe they're a function of comfort or something like this. Yeah, I think it's a good question. I don't really know where to begin there, but yeah. I mean, one could imagine that people would choose routes for different reasons beyond just travel time. So yeah, building these into the cost function. People's value of time, I guess.
So how is this going to affect the estimation of benefits from one solution versus another, like system optimum, user optimum, average cost minimization, marginal cost minimization, total cost? But you're bringing in autonomous vehicles here, benefits accrue to users.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, how is this going to do something to, because the economics of average cost it's not clear.
Right.
Right. How are you going to deal with the benefits?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I guess I'll answer slightly different questions. When it comes to tolling, right, it's people ask, when you charge tolls, how should tolls be correctly incorporated into these costs and things like that? Are you, is this some sort of social benefit pot that you're contributing to? Is it being sucked out of the economy and things like that? And I think all that's important. I think all these are, from my perspective, largely open questions. When you have this sort of, because in some sense this is just routing two classes of vehicles, but the cost functions are sort of mixed in a kind of an unusual way that a lot of multi-class literature doesn't cover quite right. And so like there's some, again, these classical questions can just be re-asked in this new framework to get different answers. Yeah.
So I think it's about time. There was a lot of student reading, so please join me